Oh boy, oh boy. I think I got a game for you guys today. It's called Hi-Fi Rush. It's made by the people that developed stuff like The Evil Within, Tango Studio, and it's published by Bethesda Games. And I think it's going to be an interesting, fresh take in the type of games they normally make. It's on the Xbox Series console, and it's on PC. And this is my review for Hi-Fi Rush on the Xbox Series X. Let's get on with it. What's going on, you guys? Lord Ad here, coming at you with another review. I know I've took a little bit of time off. I need time to recuperate. But now we'll be right back at it in the reviews. We're going to be reviewing quite a bit of games here in the next couple weeks here on the Iron Lords podcast channel. And today we're going to be reviewing Hi-Fi Rush, developed by Tango Gameworks and published by Bethesda Softworks Studio. First off, we're going to talk about, the general story of this game and, the artwork a little bit as well. Now, the artwork of this game, I would actually say, is one of its core components. Now, when I first saw this game, I don't generally like these type of games that don't really take themselves seriously. I, for one, probably lean more towards a realistic approach. But I did see this, and the art style is unique. Now, look at something like Sunset Overdrive. I would say the art style is a little bit in that direction. Now, a lot of people like to compare this game overall to Sunset Overdrive, but I don't think that's a fair comparison. Now, I would have loved for this game to get the kind of budget that Sunset Overdrive had, but I do feel like that comparison isn't really valid in this point. Now, let's talk about the story. The story, you start out as a wannabe rock star named Cha. Pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name. Probably butchered that as well. He opens up in a room that he has a broken arm or something of that matter, and it looks like he's having some type of upgrade. Now, he does get an artificial arm, and stuff kind of goes weird after that. It does look like he is able to interact with metals and stuff around him, and he is able to form it onto a weapon that he usually make a guitar or something like that. Now, first off, the gameplay of this game is a lot of rhythm-based combat. Now, I know what a lot of you are saying. Addict, I don't like rhythm-based games. Neither do I, at all. But I will say that this game doesn't punish you for not having a rhythm. What it does is it gives you bonuses and rewards you. It doesn't really give you any negative effects for missing timing. Now, if you want to, perhaps get all the achievements or get S ranks on everything, then you're probably going to have to learn that rhythm-based gameplay towards it. But what I like here that Tango Studio did is they knew that a lot of people wouldn't do stuff like that. They knew that some people would be like, yo, I just don't like the rhythm stuff. So what they did is they made a combat that, similar to something like Bayonetta, Devil May Cry. Now, it is not a serious tone of those games because this game is consistently making fun of itself, and I think that for the most part it does it very well. You look at games like High on Life, it has shown that type of humor is acceptable if you do it correctly, and I think there's a lot of games that aren't doing it correctly, but this particular game is definitely doing it correctly. In the gameplay, you have a lot of variety in terms of combat in here. You have combos from heavy attacks to pretty much basic attacks, and what I like about this is they did put another type of rhythm based in this game where you got the rhythm of the world around you, and then you got the rhythm of the combat that you have to time. For instance, when you attack someone, let's say 3 basic attacks, what happens is this green bar comes down, and if you time it correctly, they reward you for doing that with stuff like the batteries that you get for leveling up your super. There's a lot of different stuff that they put in here to reward the people who really do want to learn that rhythm based combat, but at the same time, if you don't want to do that, you can easily play through the whole game and not really worry about it. Now, I really like that, and I think that especially when you play the combat, you'll see this game is extremely variety in types of how you want to play. There's a grappling hook where you can constantly get in the face of your enemy and attack them. They have these unique characters, and I don't want to really go too much into it and spoil anything, but you can actually switch out on a certain attack. For instance, there will be a shield on a particular enemy, and you yourself can't do nothing to that enemy, but through the game you unlock these side characters that can come out and do an attack. Kind of look at it like a Marvel versus the Marvel versus Street Fighter franchise, where you can actually have someone pull up and they'll attack and then they'll leave. Now you have something similar to that on here, to where it's like I said, you have a shield, person with a blue shield. there's a character that you can unlock through the story. And what will happen is when you see these barriers on the field, you can use that character to destroy them. What I like about is there's multiple of these characters, so they do unique things on the battlefield. You know, you have a lot of rhythm-based stuff going on there as well. You know, you have enemies that have armor on that you need another character to break the armor. You have enemies that can catch on fire that you can use that character to blow them out. You know, that one seemed a little bit less used than the rest. It did feel like they wanted you to really use the other two characters the most, but I'm not going to say that the other character wasn't used, because it was used. You know, when it comes to this game, what's really good about Hi-Fi Rush is the ability to play this game in a lot of different variety of ways. What I mean by that is there's a store, and you can upgrade how you want to play. You can upgrade the combos that you want to use in the store. There's an actual place in the store where you can get more unique abilities from the people that's actually helping you out. So for instance, you know, one ability you can unlock where you do a certain combo in the air, and one of these people will bring out like a giant gun and shoot. So there's a variety of ways that you can play Hi-Fi Rush, and I think they need to get a lot of props for that, because a lot of these times, you know, when it comes to, you know, side-on characters that do stuff in the game, they mainly use them for some form of platforming. And look, there is platforming in this game. We'll get to that here in a second, but I do feel like they did a really good job being diverse with how you want to play this game with these characters. You know, in terms of the platforming, I won't say that it was amazing. I will say that it was good at times, worse at other times, but I don't think this game's really designed to be enticing when it comes to platforming. I think it's just something that you use to get around the map, something you use to get around the level. What I like about this game is every level that you do on here feels unique in some way, shape, or form. They're very big on switching up the gameplay so you don't feel like you're doing stuff for too long, and I'm really appreciative of that. I feel like that's another thing that some developers get wrong. They continue to have you do the same type of gameplay mechanics rotation for just about the entire game after you get through the tutorial. I kind of felt like I was learning a lot in this game, even almost to the end of the game. And I think that's one thing that, you know, is really enticing to playing this game, is you could go back and play it a few times. They do have some post-game stuff to where once you beat the game, you can jump in a little bit more. They have a lot of cosmetic items that isn't microtransactioned. You know, you get the in-game currency and you can use that money to buy anything your heart contents, including cosmetics. And props to them, because they could have easily put some form of microtransactions in there where you could buy it with real money. Now, stuff like that doesn't really bother me as long as it's not a multiplayer game, but it's nice that these type of cosmetics was in the game and you can actually buy them yourself. It's cool. Now look, is it like a huge amount of a selection? No, not really, but they did do enough to make your characters look more unique than the person next to you, and I appreciate that. For those of you that's been following me for a while, you know I'm a huge component when it comes to boss fights. And I can honestly say that the boss fights on this game is very unique and well done. They change things up multiple times during the fight. Most of the time when you play something like a From Software game, you'll see that they'll change things up depending on how much damage you do. Most of these time when you fight a boss on Hi-Fi Rush, they got 4 or 5 bars that lead up to 1 health bar, and they're pretty much saying, look, if you get me down to this amount of health, I'm going to change things up. And I like that, because some bosses in here, I would say, change things up at least twice, and I really enjoy that, because it keeps you on your toes the entire time you're fighting them, but it never feels like they're doing too much. It feels like it's the same person. Sometimes I hate when they put these type of mechanics in a game, and instead of just changing what the actual character does, they just change the character in general. You know, I like a phase where you fight with a bar, and then another phase where maybe it's a little bit more of a long range weapon, or, you know, they shoot lightning through one of the weapons in one of the fights on here. And I really like that. And, you know, all of the bosses, I would say, have a really good charisma. You know, when you're fighting them, you're laughing because of the jokes that's going on between them. I do think that the story builds up pretty well, and especially the last couple levels on Hi-Fi Rush really impressed me. And especially when you add the licensed music that they use in this game. Some of the music when you're fighting bosses can be very epic. You feel like it's just going down left and right, and I think that was intentional to make you really be on your toes when you're fighting these individuals. Now look, this game is amazing, but it's got its faults. You know, I do feel like the story, as good as it was told, I felt like the budget wasn't really there in terms of, you know, the cinematics. I do feel like this game, if it would have had a budget like Sunset Overdrive, you know, just to make it more expansive, make the world more expansive, you know, I do like how they changed the biomes that you're in here quite a bit, where you don't feel like you're only in one little office area or something like that. They did a really good job on that, but I feel like the way they told the narrative could have changed a little bit. Now, I'm not gonna like use it as a standpoint not to buy the game, because I don't think it's worth not buying because of that. But if I were to ask for a Hi-Fi Rush 2, that's probably one of the only criticisms I would give, like true criticism. It's like, I think you could have made the game look better, and you could have, you know, told the story in a little bit better, maybe more cinematics, maybe build up the world a little bit more. I do feel like the beginning of the game is kind of a mystery on what happens, and they do a good job explaining it throughout the game, but it's just like, get more context at the beginning, explain who we are, what's happening. And I think, you know, the presentation could have been a little bit better in terms of how they were telling the narrative of this game. But like I said, I wouldn't use any of that against it. Look, at the end of the day, you guys know how I do these things. You know, I don't really tell you a 1 through 10 rating. I always tell you whether or not it's worthy of your money. This game, if I remember correctly, is $40 on Steam. It's on Game Pass. Now, obviously, if it's on Game Pass, you guys should be playing this already. This is definitely worth a download. By all means, go home right now, or click off this video right now, and, you know, go ahead, go on that Xbox, you know, that PC Game Pass, and click download. I think this is definitely something that's worth downloading, and you guys would really enjoy. Now, if you want to buy it because you want to own the actual game, I definitely understand that. And for $30, it's definitely worth that. Now, I even think they probably could have snuck us a fast one and got 60 for this. I'm glad they didn't, because I feel like this game's going to do better at that price point. I do feel like the gaming industry will try to charge you $60, $70 for a title that a lot of consumers isn't worth $60 or $70. And I think the only people that hurt in the end is the developers that made the game, because they know that with that type of price point, it's harder to sell. But I do think 30 is definitely worth it. I would actually recommend picking up the $40 deluxe edition, because that's just how good this game is. You get, you know, some perks with it, I assume, and it just shows a little bit more appreciation to, we got to support the good games that do come out, and the ones especially that they give you cosmetics that don't try to charge you extra money for. Hi-Fi Rush is a change of pace that I think the industry desperately needs. It's the type of indie game slash, you know, AAA budget, I would say, because Microsoft is funding this at this point, so was Bethesda before Microsoft bought them, where it's like, these are the type of titles that's going to carry us to the promised land. These are the type of titles that's going to try unique things that big AAA products such as, you know, the Starfields out there don't really necessarily want to risk trying, because they know it's untested in the market. And these type of games have the flexibility to try new things. And I think Hi-Fi Rush did a good job at making a rhythm game that doesn't enforce you to play by its rules. Now, I know to a lot of people, they're like, but Addict, if it's a rhythm game and they're not making you play by the rhythm rules of the game, isn't that making it too easy? In a couple ways, I would agree with you, but at the same time, this is one of those aspects where making it more accessible is definitely going to benefit the brand and the product in the future, because sure, it's different than making a game easier or harder, or, you know, a little bit harder. This is pretty much saying, look, we want to make a rhythm game. We want to make a game revolved around music, and we want that rhythm-based combat there, but we don't want to penalize you for it. We don't want people to see this game and say, yo, I don't like this and I'm not going to play it. We want people to seem like we'll give it a chance. And now, since they've been more open to the rhythm-based combat, I think they're going to get a lot more people talking about this game. And I would be very surprised if Microsoft's not working on a second one. I definitely recommend this for $30 and highly recommend it for Game Pass and PC Game Pass. I think every one of you would enjoy this game, even if you don't like rhythm-based games like I don't. I can't stand them for the most part. I enjoyed this game thoroughly. But, you know, that's pretty much the review. I thought the gameplay was fantastic. The story was good. Could have been better, and I felt like the artwork was really well done. Maybe it could have been a little bit better with, you know, better budgeting in the future. It's like I said, those things are me more nitpicking for a Hi-Fi Rush 2, and not necessarily issues with this game as it stands. But that's pretty much my opinion on Hi-Fi Rush, developed by Tango Software and published by Bethesda. And I hope you enjoyed this review. Keep in mind, I reviewed it on the Xbox Series X. And until next time, this is Lord Addict of the Iron Lords podcast. Definitely tune in for our podcast every Sunday at 1 p.m. And until the next review, this is Lord Addict. I'm out of here. Peace.